The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, well, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Or maybe obsession isn't the right word, more of a massive scandal.
Right, a scandal. And a huge one.
Right.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today's deep dive is, it's definitely a wild one.
Oh, it really is. Because our headline story today is literally how Kim Kardashian SKIMS ended up in a $9.5 million drug bust.
Yeah, $9.5 million. That's nearly $10 million in narcotics.
It's completely insane. So if you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed because we've got even crazier stories ahead. But let's set the scene for this one. Picture this. It is September 2025. A massive heavy goods transport truck rolls off a ferry from the Netherlands.
Just a standard logistics route.
Exactly. Its tires hit the tarmac at the UK's Port of Harwich. And from the outside, it is the absolute picture of everyday commercial shipping, like totally boring.
Right, and the manifest is completely legitimate. It lists 28 pallets of luxury shapewear, fully documented merchandise from Kim Kardashian's billion-dollar brand, SKIMS.
But hidden deep within the engineered skin of the truck's rear trailer doors is over $9 million worth of cocaine.
Yeah, 90 individually wrapped 1 kilogram packages.
That is over 200 pounds of narcotics, just quietly riding shotgun with high fashion. Over $9 million of cocaine wrapped in a billionaire's brand. It is the ultimate disguise.
Really is.
So today, we're looking at what happens when that disguise drops. We're unpacking how massive, globally recognized brands get hijacked by international drug smugglers. And then we're going to look at a radical new legal proposal from the Fordham Law Review for what the justice system should do when the brand itself is the actual criminal.
Yeah, the Port of Harwich bust is really a masterclass in modern smuggling logistics. When the UK Border Force officers ran that truck through their heavy-duty X-ray scanners...
Like the big ones.
Exactly. The anomaly in the rear doors stood out immediately. But we need to be crystal clear from the start here. SKIMS had absolutely zero involvement.
None at all.
Right. The National Crime Agency and border authorities explicitly stated that neither the company, nor the exporter, nor the importer knew anything about this. SKIMS was simply an unwitting shield.
Which, raises the obvious question of why a cartel would choose SKIMS in the first place. Like, if you're moving nearly $10 million of illegal product, you don't just pick a random truck out of a hat.
No, you pick the truck that looks the most boring to a customs agent.
Right.
Organized crime syndicates actively seek out ordinary, high-volume commercial shipments. They want trusted global brands. A massive shipment of SKIMS underwear crossing the channel looks incredibly routine.
Because customs officials see those exact shipments every single day.
Precisely. It attracts significantly less scrutiny than, say, an unbranded generic cargo load. The brand's legitimacy, its actual corporate reputation, is literally weaponized by the cartel to bypass security protocols.
Wow. And the economics of this operation are just staggering. So the driver of the truck, a 40-year-old Polish national named Jakub Jan Konkel, was arrested right at the scene. He's sitting in the cab of a truck hauling a payload with a street value of roughly $9.4 million.
Or about 7 million pounds.
Yeah. And do you know what his fee was for taking on this massive legal risk?
It's shockingly low.
4,500 euros.
Which translates to roughly 0.06% of the street value of the drugs he was carrying.
Okay, let's unpack this. It makes no sense at first glance.
Yeah.
A multinational cartel trusts a single guy with nearly $10 million of product, but they pay him less than the cost of a used car.
Yeah, it's wild.
And beyond the money, how does a solo driver even get 200 pounds of cocaine inside the structural frame of a commercial trailer without anyone at the loading dock noticing?
Well, he doesn't do it at the loading dock.
Wait, really?
Yeah, this brings us to a highly sophisticated technique known as the ghost stop.
The ghost stop.
Right. Commercial transport trucks are outfitted with a tachograph. It's an electronic device that meticulously tracks the vehicle's speed, distance, and every single time the engine idles or stops.
So they have a digital footprint of everything.
Exactly. And when investigators pulled the data from Konkel's tachograph, they found an undeclared 16-minute window on his route.
16 minutes. That is barely enough time to grab a coffee and use the restroom at a truck stop.
But 16 minutes is all it takes for a professional, highly coordinated crew waiting by the side of a rural road.
Oh, wow.
The cartel has these pre-built, professionally engineered compartments, In that tiny, hyper-efficient window, the truck pulls over, the crew swoops in, they remove the interior panels of the trailer.
And just load it all in.
Yeah. They load the 90 kilograms of narcotics into the empty structural voids, seal the doors back up so they look factory fresh, and the truck is back on the road.
That is terrifyingly efficient. And Konkel initially denied knowing the drugs were even there, right? He claimed he was just driving his route.
He did. But he eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 13.5 years in prison.
While the cartel barely registers the loss.
Right.
I mean, they view these drivers as cheap, entirely expendable cogs in a highly profitable machine. If Konkel gets caught, the cartel loses that specific shipment, but the structural integrity of their organization remains completely intact.
They just hire another driver for another 4,000 euros next week.
Exactly.
There.
And that's not even the wildest part, because the real collateral damage here, beyond the obvious societal impact of the narcotics, falls on the brand that was used as the shield.
Yeah, SKIMS was thrust into a complete public relations nightmare.
A total nightmare. I mean, the authorities cleared them immediately, but the internet doesn't care about official press releases.
Not at all.
The headlines exploded across every social media platform. The celebrity attachment is just too juicy. You had thousands of people making viral jokes about shapewear and narcotics, permanently linking the brand to a massive criminal enterprise in the public consciousness.
Which is the paradox here. The very thing that makes SKIMS so phenomenally valuable.
Its massive global visibility.
Exactly. That visibility is the exact mechanism that made the story go viral. It's the inherent vulnerability of massive brand equity.
And the fallout bled straight into the personal lives of the executives. We should definitely note the wave of media rumors that followed the bust.
Oh, the rumors were everywhere.
Yeah, and to be clear, we're just impartially reporting on what surfaced in the media. But multiple outlets reported that Kim Kardashian was deeply shaken by the incident. There were reports that she even broke down in a highly secure meeting with her ex-husband, Kanye West.
Yeah, reportedly feeling like she was being actively framed by someone embedded deep within her own logistics chain.
Right. And you can imagine the psychological toll of having your name, your primary business venture, plastered next to international drug trafficking headlines.
It's just immense.
There were even widespread rumors that British racing driver Lewis Hamilton, who was allegedly dating Kardashian at the time.
Right, the dating rumors.
Yeah, that he quietly pulled away from the relationship, specifically to distance his own personal brand from the harsh media scrutiny surrounding the drug bust.
Which really highlights a terrifying reality for modern corporations. If we connect this to the bigger picture, as luxury brands expand their global footprint, their shipping channels become labyrinthine.
Completely tangled.
A single garment might involve raw materials from one country, manufacturing in another, packaging in a third, and distribution across dozens of international ports.
So there are just gaps everywhere.
Exactly. They rely on a massive web of third-party logistics companies, independent freight operators, and temporary warehouse staff.
It's like a high-speed relay race run in pitch darkness.
That's a great way to put it.
The baton is being passed between dozens of different runners who can't even see each other. And it's in those blind, silent handoffs, like a 16-minute ghost stop on a random highway, that the drop happens.
Smugglers map out the entire supply chain, find the darkest spots, and exploit them.
So SKIMS suffered a massive PR headache because criminals hijacked their brand's legitimacy. But stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because we are flipping the script.
Right. What happens when a powerful brand isn't the victim, but the actual perpetrator of a crime?
Exactly. Let's bring in this fascinating academic paper from the Fordham Law Review. It's titled Branding Corporate Criminals. And it starts with a simple premise about human nature and the justice system. When a human being commits a serious crime, society brands them with a permanent stigma.
They get labeled a felon or a thief, an embezzler.
Right. And that label follows you. It shows up when you apply for a job, when you try to rent an apartment, when you apply for a loan. It is a permanent communicative mark of societal condemnation.
But when a multi-billion-dollar corporation breaks the law,
It's totally different.
completely different. When they dump millions of gallons of toxic waste into a river or commit massive systemic financial fraud that ruins thousands of pensions, society's response is fundamentally different.
Because our justice system currently relies almost entirely on financial penalties for corporate crimes.
Yeah.
We just find them.
And the problem is that financial penalties are spectacularly inadequate at deterring corporate malfeasance.
Yeah, because to a Fortune 500 company, A fine isn't a punishment. It's just a line item on a spreadsheet.
It literally becomes the cost of doing business.
Exactly. I mean, if a pharmaceutical company makes $2 billion illegally marketing a drug and the government fines them $500 million,
They still made $1.5 billion in profit.
it's just an operating expense.
And the mechanics of these monetary sanctions are even more flawed when you look closely. When the Department of Justice announces a massive headline-grabbing penalty, it is usually broken down into two parts: restitution and the punitive fine.
Right. And restitution is just paying back what was stolen.
Exactly. It's covering the immediate cost of the damage caused. It is not a punishment, it's just putting the money back. And legally, a company must pay restitution first.
And here's the wild part. The Sentencing Commission analyzed the data and found that nearly 1/3 of all organizations sentenced since 1992 couldn't even afford to pay their punitive fines after they finished paying the restitution.
It's ridiculous.
They pay back the money they stole, and then their lawyers throw up their hands and say, well, we're out of cash, we can't afford the actual punishment, and the courts often just accept it.
Yeah. And then you have the most commonly used tool in corporate law: deferred prosecution agreements, or DPAs, and non-prosecution agreements.
I've heard of these.
Historically, diversion programs were designed for low-level, non-violent human offenders. The idea was to keep a teenager who made a mistake out of the prison system and get them into rehabilitation.
Which makes sense.
Right. But today, that same legal mechanism has been co-opted by massive corporations to buy their way out of a criminal conviction.
Wait, they just buy their way out.
Literally, in exchange for paying a penalty and promising to update their internal compliance programs, the government just agrees not to prosecute the company at all.
And the penalties involved are shockingly low.
Yeah.
The Forbin Law Review paper calculates that these fines are often less than 0.04% of a company's total market capitalization.
Barely a rounding error.
And half of all pretrial diversion agreements impose no fine at all.
Zero.
It is the equivalent of giving a billionaire a parking ticket. Doesn't change their behavior, it just charges them a premium fee for parking their yacht wherever they want. They pay the invoice and keep breaking the rules.
Because by utilizing these agreements, corporations entirely avoid a formal criminal conviction. And without a conviction, there is no communal condemnation.
The public rarely hears about the crime.
Exactly. The details get buried in a highly technical, profoundly boring Department of Justice press release that is published on a Friday afternoon and forgotten by Monday. The corporation's brand remains completely pristine in the eyes of the consumer.
Which brings us to the radical proposal at the heart of this paper. Later in the episode, we'll talk about the evasion tactics. But first, the authors propose a concept called corporate criminal branding.
Corporate criminal branding.
Yeah. And the logic is built on corporate valuation. For iconic companies, think of a Coca-Cola, a Nike, an Apple. Their brand equity, the literal logo and the feelings associated with it, accounts for 30 to sometimes 70% of their total market value.
So if you truly want to punish a corporation, you have to hit them in their most valuable asset.
Exactly. The authors suggest legally forcing convicted corporations to append a visual criminal designation to their public image.
They propose a mark, much like the trademark or copyright symbol. They suggest a lowercase f enclosed in a circle, standing for felon.
Like the O mark.
Yeah, the O mark. A federal judge would mandate that this symbol be permanently or temporarily attached to the company's legal name, its corporate logo, or its physical product packaging.
Okay, wait, isn't branding criminals barbaric? I mean, we stopped putting Scold's bridles on people centuries ago. We don't brand human beings with hot irons because it's a cruel and unusual violation of human rights. So how is forcing a permanent scarlet letter onto a company any more ethical?
Well, the ethics of this proposal hinge entirely on the fundamental difference between a human being and a corporate entity. The history of physical branding is dark, painful, and morally indefensible for people. But corporations do not have physical bodies.
Right.
They do not feel pain, they don't have human dignity that can be violated, and they don't suffer psychological trauma. Furthermore, humans have a natural predisposition to rehabilitate. We believe people can change and redeem themselves.
Whereas corporations they're abstract legal constructs designed solely to generate profit. They don't have a soul to save or a body to incarcerate.
Exactly. What they do have is a meticulously curated, multi-billion-dollar public personality. They spend decades and billions of advertising dollars getting you, the consumer, to emotionally bond with their logo.
Because they want your trust.
Right. And since a corporation feels no physical pain and a financial fine doesn't sting their balance sheet, striking their public image is the only method available to inflict true proportional punishment.
And it serves a dual purpose, right? It publicly communicates society's condemnation of the crime, and it serves as a direct warning to consumers about the entity they are doing business with.
Just imagine the power of this in everyday life. Picture the toothpaste you used this morning. You know the logo, the colors, the whole vibe. Now imagine you pick it up tomorrow and legally mandated, right next to the crisp mint leaf, is a stark black symbol.
It completely shatters the illusion.
Yeah. Instead of a boring DOJ press release, the punishment is sitting right on your bathroom counter.
And the courts could easily scale this depending on the severity of the crime. For standard corporate felonies, the O mark might be sufficient. But for severe violations involving public health or environmental devastation, the government could mandate evocative packaging.
We already see this in public health initiatives. Think about the graphic health warnings mandated on cigarette packs in countries like Australia or the UK.
Oh yeah, those are intense.
They show the actual physical damage of smoking right on the cardboard box. So a corporation convicted of illegally dumping toxic chemicals might be forced to use packaging that visually communicates the dead wildlife or contaminated water they caused.
And the paper even suggests modernizing the approach with QR codes. You're walking down the aisle at the grocery store, you see the O symbol on a box of cereal, and you scan it with your smartphone. It doesn't take you to their marketing site. It links directly to a government-hosted, plain-language summary of the exact crimes the corporation committed.
It puts the power of transparency directly into the consumer's hands at the exact psychological moment they are deciding whether to hand over their money.
Okay, but whenever a proposal like this surfaces, the immediate pushback from corporate defense lawyers involves the First Amendment. Forcing a company to print an O on their box is a form of compelled speech. And the U.S. Constitution strongly protects private citizens from being forced to say something they don't want to say.
Right, but corporate speech and individual speech aren't treated the same way in the courts. Actually, it's exactly the opposite. Commercial speech has significantly lower protections under the law, operating under what courts call intermediate scrutiny.
Intermediate scrutiny.
Yeah. The logic here is that corporations are granted licenses to operate by the state. They are engaging in commerce, proposing commercial transactions to the public. Because the state regulates commerce to protect citizens, it has the authority to compel companies to disclose factual information.
Oh, this is why the government can legally force food companies to list every single ingredient on a nutrition label.
Exactly. Or force chemical manufacturers to put massive, bold warning labels on their cleaning supplies. Courts routinely enforce mandatory disclosures.
So as long as the compelled speech is purely factual.
And a criminal conviction in a court of law is an objective, undeniable fact. So the First Amendment is unlikely to block this. The state has an overwhelming vested interest in preventing future corporate crimes and informing the public of hidden dangers.
Okay, the theory is brilliant, but companies are infinitely slippery. They have legions of expensive lawyers and crisis management PR teams. If I'm the CEO of a massive corporation and a judge slaps my incredibly valuable logo with an O, couldn't I just change my company name?
That's a common question.
Or like completely abandon the branded product line, create a new shell company, and launch an identical product under a fresh, unblemished name?
Well, the authors of the Fordham paper anticipated those exact evasion tactics. First, abandoning a brand is catastrophically expensive. If you drop your primary brand, you throw away decades of built-up consumer loyalty and billions in sunk advertising costs.
That makes sense.
It is true that a few toxic brands have attempted to rebrand to escape stigma. The classic example is Philip Morris changing its corporate name to Altria to distance itself from the massive public health fallout of the tobacco industry.
But they kept the brand names of the actual cigarettes. I mean, people still buy Marlboros, they don't buy Altria.
Precisely. Rebranding the corporate holding company is one thing, but rebranding the consumer-facing product is rarely profitable. You're burning your biggest asset just to hide.
Okay, what about the opposite approach? What if a company just leans into the notoriety? Like, they spend $50 million on a counter PR campaign saying the O mark is a badge of honor, or that the government is just overreaching.
For that, we can look at how the broader commercial ecosystem handles heavily stigmatized companies. The paper cites the example of platforms that host adult content, like Pornhub.
Okay.
When major allegations of illegal and non-consensual content surfaced on their platform, some cynical observers thought the site might actually benefit from the dark, illicit publicity among a certain demographic of users.
But a brand doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It relies on a massive B2B infrastructure to survive.
Exactly. The consumer response wasn't the issue. The B2B network effect was. Payment processors like Visa and MasterCard, who were incredibly protective of their own brand equity, unilaterally cut them off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they refused to process transactions for a highly stigmatized entity. The financial reality of becoming a toxic brand meant the platform literally could not process payments. They were forced to massively alter their compliance structures and purge huge amounts of content just to get the payment networks back online.
Because stakeholders, venture capitalists, supply chain partners, nobody wants the taint of a corporate felon rubbing off on their own ledgers.
Exactly. Furthermore, prosecutors have tools to stop counter PR campaigns. They routinely write clauses into modern deferred prosecution agreements stating that the company is legally forbidden from publicly contradicting the admitted facts of their crime.
So if the CEO goes on television and claims the O mark is unfair government overreach,
The court can instantly revoke the agreement and hit them with further sanctions. Financial reality and legal strictures make a criminal brand incredibly hard to evade.
bringing this deep dive full circle, we started with 28 pallets of Skims sitting on a dock in the UK. A totally innocent, globally recognized brand that had its positive equity exploited by an international drug cartel to move 200 pounds of cocaine.
The cartel used the brand's pristine reputation as a camouflage net to hide their crimes.
And we end with a legal blueprint for guilty corporations, where the justice system forcibly turns the corporation's own multi-billion-dollar brand into a neon billboard broadcasting its crimes to the world.
The ultimate lesson here bridges both stories perfectly. In the modern commercial world, a corporation's brand is its single most powerful asset. It builds empires out of nothing. It creates immense generational wealth.
But because that power relies entirely on public perception and consumer trust, it is fundamentally vulnerable. Whether it's a smuggling syndicate using it as a disguise or a federal judge using it as a weapon of justice, the brand is where the real power and the real weakness lies.
It's the modern equivalent of the town square. It is where reputations are painstakingly built, and it is exactly where they should be held accountable.
Which leaves you with something to really chew on. Think about your absolute favorite product, the one you rely on every single day, the brand you blindly trust without a second thought. Now imagine you walk into a store tomorrow, you pick it off the shelf, and right there on the front label is a stark, legally mandated O symbol.
A permanent warning that the corporation manufacturing it is a convicted corporate felon.
Would you still buy it? Does your daily consumer convenience ultimately outweigh your moral outrage? You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.